Good morning, and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've made the connection and are with us today. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and the goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us in ways that get us thinking, get us talking, and today, get us singing and connected, and perhaps inspired or challenged to do just a bit more because we made the connection. Our topic today is scenes and skills behind the music that move us. And hosting with me today is Rick Bernardo. He is a musician, an ethicist, a teacher, a seeker of connections. And I will let him tell us about how he created our topic today.
How I created the topic, that's one of the universal mysteries. But I have met a number of musicians over the years of my life, for decades.
Being a musician, that happens.
That happens as a musician. But there's two musicians we have on our show today. The first is Nathaniel Harris, whom I met outside the parking lot at Kowalski's. And here's the thing. There are so many genius musicians in the world, playing coffee houses, playing all over the place. Every famous musician I know, because I know some famous ones, they started you just do what you do. You put it out there. So that's kind of behind the notion for our program today is what's behind all of that. Famous or not, there's brilliance musically. And the other thing is music is such a special soulful, heartfelt language that moves people. So, Nathaniel Harris, I met outside the Kowalski's parking lot in Uptown, and I kind of like this. Fast forward, now he's every Friday evening there, either in the winter indoors, and as a special, it's like half the store he's taken up. No, it's like a quarter of it or a third of it. And he's got a special performance section with a banner there, and but in between all of that, he was also he kind of evolved from playing outside the parking lot to right next to the store in a common outdoor area. So anyway, I just love that. I've seen that develop, and I loved his music. The first time I heard some music, and I was like, I know that song. What is it? I finally asked him. It was George Benson, "Breezin'," right? Yeah. Anyway, that was just wonderful. So I wanted to have him on, as well as our next guest. I'll talk about it later. But that'll be Dessa. We'll be having on the second half. So anyway, good morning. After all of that, good to see you again.
Good morning. Welcome, Nathaniel Harris. Yes. And you go by. You promote yourself as Nathaniel Harris Live.
That's correct.
And that's what the big banner says, right? Right in the Kowalski's. And most afternoons, Friday afternoons, from 4 to 7.
4 to 7.
You're at Kowalski's, and you're at the Kowalski's in Uptown.
Uptown, that's correct.
But you've played other Kowalski's as well.
Yes, I started at Kowalski's, but kind of ventured out into Eden Prairie.
Oak Park Heights.
Oak Park Heights, yes.
It's a certain tour gig.
Yeah, it's the Kowalski tour.
It's the pick up the milk and listen to Nathaniel tour.
I like that.
And do a little moving around. Get some exercise, a little dancing there.
Dancing, exactly. Yeah, you do want to dance when you hear this.
And you may have heard another voice, and that is our friend Mary Boer. And she is not only married to Nathaniel Harris, she is loosely considered his manager. So if you give them a call, she may be the one that gives you a call back. And we'll promote that phone number for you. Nathaniel's phone is 651-808-2881. We'll give that at the end of the segment as well. But Mary also does an awesome job with the coffee support. which Nathaniel's very, very particular about.
That's right.
Yeah,
and it's almost required on every gig.
Oh, good. You write it in. You're an addictive coffee drinker like myself, so I have a certain amount of affection for you on that.
Okay.
So tell me how you decided to just even start, playing music on the street next to Kowalski.
Well,
that's the question.
Rick kind of hit it in a way. But I started doing street music after I retired from my regular job. I've always been a musician, but I It was mostly just part-time. Mm-hmm. So after I retired from my regular job, I basically went into music full time. And that when I said going to music full time, I meant whatever pays the bill, I'm doing it musically. But my love for music is just what I wanted to really do. I had freedom. I found out they're doing street music. I went into street music. So I was playing. When we say street music, we mean basically just playing music where people will welcome you. Wherever you go, if they say you can't do it here, you leave and you go somewhere else.
So you're on a corner and you open up your guitar case, and if folks want to throw in a little, for their appreciation,
never ask for money. Just basically just
right
have
there.
fun, play music.
If you like it, throw in a 5.
Precisely. Yeah. So that's kind of how I started. And I went out and I finally ended up at Kowalski's in Uptown after many places that I've been to, and a lot of places welcomed me. A lot of places. But I basically got there, and when I got there, I had one of the staff there. Actually, was a security guy. I was not on the property. I was basically sitting off the property, and he was coming over towards me, and I was like, "Oh, here he comes! He's coming to tell me I gotta move." And so he comes up and he says, we really like you to come over to our coffee shop area.
Nice.
On the outside here, and. I said, well, thank you. And I had the same thing happen to me at Cubs Food, same thing, but that's a different story. But when they come at you, you're thinking they're coming to tell you to leave. But he said he welcomed me to come on the property. So I got on the property, played music.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a little patio area right outside the door. It's
Precisely.
beautiful. Oh,
Yes.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. So landed there, and after that, eventually I went on the inside of the lobby area and was playing music in there. Because when the wintertime came, it was like, it came on the outside doing that. I never played music outside in the cold. I
think that's smart. And your guitars thank you for that.
Precisely, yeah. So did that in the lobby area. And then the manager came up to me and mentioned, I would like to start something, and I think you would be the man for it. I think you would be perfect for it. I want to just get something for the community. And this was like during the COVID, after the COVID, kind of, the COVID.
Yeah, the transition time.
Yeah, the transition time.
As people are coming back. And
yeah. And
why not have a community celebration?
Precisely, that's his idea, and also the George Floyd thing. Just read all the stuff that was going on. But basically, he wanted to just shine some light and just get people together and have the community, things for people to do and come and enjoy the music. And
isn't it wonderful that he saw that you were the light?
Well, I was appreciative of that.
Yeah. And with that, why don't you share one of the songs that you might be playing when you're at Kowalski's? I love the Lean on Me.
Oh, sure.
So if you want to play just a little bit of that for us.
Yeah, I can play a little clip of that. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain. We all have sorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong. Said I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, boy. It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Now, you'd mentioned in coming back, one of the things also is they want to recognize the George Floyd challenge and the transition and, how to bring life back to a community that was grieving.
That's absolutely correct,
and the pain of that. How have you felt that some of your music has created more of that community and unity after the great heartbreak?
Well, I just feel like that people really wanted to some uplifting and some positivity and fun and stuff. So, I just tried to display that and just a smile and just encouraging words and doing songs that were uplifting to people. People like to dance, so people were, coming by dancing, smiling as they're going in and out of the parking lot to do their groceries. And so I always just try to give the people a smile and give them a wave. And they did the same with me and played the music and just appreciated one another. I saw the light in people as they were really getting into it and stuff. So.
And I know you like to talk about the music that you do. Did you start doing that at Kowalski's as well? or is that something special that you do with some other gigs?
That's something I do that automatically whenever I perform. I try to pull back sometimes when I certain genres that I do, some styles of music or locations that I do music. I have to just play music, But some places I get chance to just be open and just talk and connect with the people. So yeah, that's that comes and goes. That's kind of depends on certain.
When I first met Nathaniel, that he was friendly. No, we just talked and we hit it off right away.
Yeah,
I was on the way in for milk or something, but that stuck with me. Looking for him every time I could be at Kowalski's.
Yes,
so that's a great thing.
Yeah, it is
for me. It was for me,
absolutely,
and for a lot of other people. And I've been there a couple of times on a schedule where. Other musicians and other instruments going on. I was like, "What is that?" There was some Temptations music, some Gladys Knight going on, all kinds of wonderful music while I'm getting my milk on the groove.
Hey, man.
Well, I do want to let folks know that. If you're interested in hiring our friend Nathaniel, it might be for a celebration, restaurant, you do weddings.
Yes, did one.
and you do a wide range of music, but it's all uplifting and it's all about connecting. And we love having you on Connections Radio Show.
Well, thank you.
To celebrate creating the connections and being part of the healing and being part of the hope and being part of what's next and celebrating old music and new music.
Yes.
So we need to take a break, but when we come back, you've got more music that you'll play for us, which I'm excited about.
Okay.
And we'll learn about some of the shows coming up that you're doing that people can take a look and join the fun.
Okay,
so
Lord.
Stay with us. We'll be right back after a few short commercials. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. And we're exploring music today. And my friend Rick Bernardo is hosting with me today. Tell us a little bit about what we're exploring and why we're exploring it.
Well, today's theme is scenes and skills behind the music that moves us. And music does move us. And that's one of the primary reasons we have not only Dessa later today on our program, but also Nathaniel Harris. He goes by Nathaniel Harris Live. And he's fully alive. and music brings us alive. Music inspires us. That word inspire means to bring to life is what it means.
And Nathaniel plays at Kowalski Groceries in Uptown area on Fridays at 4 o'clock, but he also plays around town. Rick first met him in the parking lot of Kowalski's and was intrigued with his music and was intrigued with all the wonderful ways that we can have music show up in our life.
Yeah, and parking lot, he was performing just outside the parking lot. There was a boundary thing going on there. So,
pretty much, yeah.
And then he performed inside the parking lot and then right outside the store. So now he's in the store and just every Friday evening.
And we also have Mary joining us. Mary is Nathaniel's wife, and Mary Boer. And she is loosely his manager and head coffee support for all of the great gigs. And it's Mary that you will connect with if you're interested in having Nathaniel be part of a celebration or something fun. So tell us a little bit about how.
Well, one thing behind today's program is. People don't always get what goes into doing what people do when they do the music. I've got comedians, actors, musicians. When they name their fee, I don't think our society values these art forms enough in terms of the money, really. Because most actors, musicians in the world, they have to have another job. They're not famous. Just very few are. And very few can support themselves on that. So when somebody gives a fee for it, I've got a musician friend that says it's not just $800 for your conference, it's $800 for the half hour plus 30 years of practicing before that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about what's going into the beautiful light that shines from what you do. So I just know, like, I can only play piano because there was a baby grand in every dorm of my college, and Christian Steinway was one of my college roommates. I didn't know, that's Steinway until later. That's why all the pianos were everywhere. But anyway, I started to sit at the piano and play for like hours a day.
So how do you do your prep work?
Oh boy, it's a long process. Like Rick's saying, it's a lot goes into it more than what people really understand, and that's understandable that they don't understand it, but it's still there. You know?
I love it.
Yeah,
you understand that they don't
I
understand.
and I really appreciate Rick your understanding of what goes into all this.
Well, I'm getting there.
Yeah, but my wife will tell you that I especially since I've been doing this Kowalski's deal, but even before that. Just what goes into when you just with a band, even, you know, it's a lot. You got to move equipment, you got to take it, you got to set it up, you got to break it down, you got to, practice with a band, you got to practice with musicians, you got to deal with a lot of different heads. I went solo because it made it much simpler just to do stuff by myself, and less heads, less equipment to move and all that. But the bottom line is that what it takes to do Kowalski's every Friday is just what I said. Set up. You got to set up tents for the outside. You got to set up the equipment. You got to break it down. When I'm at home, I practice. And then I have to learn songs. If I do a certain venue, they may ask me to, do a certain type of music that I don't know already. So I have to learn it,
Yeah.
So it's just so much that goes into it that people don't. You got to buy equipment. You have to.
Oh yeah.
You got to try to buy stuff that's going to really hold up real good for what you're doing, and it gets expensive. But
Sure.
but the love of doing it, I'm my own sound man. I have to do my own sound. I have to, after I do the sound, I got to then perform.
Hope you get paid extra.
I'm working on that.
Yeah.
And before we, I want to have you do another song. But before we have you do another song, I sure would love to hear about some gigs that you've got coming up.
Okay, well, we've mentioned the Kowalski's every Friday night from 4 to 7. I just want to add that the first 2 hours are usually a concert with Nathaniel performing, and every week we try to get a different guest performer in. And some of these guest performers are have been at our community jam, because the third hour at 6 o'clock every Friday is a community jam open mic type thing.
Cool.
So we'd love to have you join us at Kowalski's Uptown Market on Friday evenings. And then tonight we're actually at Vino in the Valley in Maiden Rock, Wisconsin from 5 to 8 p.m.
Right.
And you can, if you search for Vino in the Valley, you'll find their website that has more information about that. But that's kind of like an open air restaurant and down a little dirt road.
And there's lots of ones like that coming
Yeah.
up. What I'd like to do is also let folks know about going onto your Facebook. You have Nathaniel Harris Live
Yeah, just search for that. I found it really quickly.
on your Facebook so that you're able to then be able to see all the gigs coming up.
That's right.
And I do want to, before we end the show, I want to make sure that, okay, my friend Rick is making sure that I get the phone number first. I was going to do it at the very end, but we'll do it now.
Okay. Well, we don't, yeah.
Go.
651-808-2881, 2881. All right.
Great stuff. And then we also want to hear some more music that you play. So we had in the last one, we had Lean on Me, right?
That's correct.
How about Stand By Me?
Stand by me.
Let's do
Sure.
the Stand By Me for this one.
Very encouraging song. I love it, and we're gonna do it. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me, stand by me, and I'll stand by you.
All right. I love it. I love it.
Again, that's Nathaniel Harris live. Head on down to Kowalski's in Uptown, 4 o'clock, and enjoy him as you buy your groceries.
That's right.
Or not. Just stop.
Yeah.
Food for your soul and food for your refrigerator.
That's good. I'm going to use that phrase. That's good.
It feeds you, that's
Right
for
on.
sure.
One is
It feeds you.
cold and one is not.
Not necessarily. There's hot stuff too at Kowalski's.
You guys got some
I love
good
Kowalski's. So a nice another plug for Kowalski's. But thank you for joining us, Nathaniel.
You're
And,
so welcome,
and we're
Lori.
looking forward to coming to see you.
Thank you, Lori.
All right.
Thank you.
And
Thank
with
you.
that, stay tuned because we have another musician joining us in our second half of the show. So we'll be right back after a few short commercials.
Fill the kiddie pool up with Prosecco. Get the LEDs on, need the spectacle. Gotta beat the one last week. Let's get a record. If you're trying to be a go-getter, you gotta go and get it. Desperate times call for desperate pleasures. Some legitimate headlines, mostly cries for attention. The camera speeds, copy ready to read. Ought to be a good night. We're live in 3, 2, dang man, busting on a hot mic. It's a hurricane party. End days every other Wednesday. Live girls dance, dead men float. A hurricane party, gold dust, checks and Bacardi. DJ says don't hold back because the water won't.
And welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we are having fun with music today. I'm Lori Fitz, your host. And Rick Bernardo, my co-host, has brought together some fabulous musicians. In our first two segments, we heard from Nathaniel Harris and his entrepreneurial spirit and getting the music out in the community. And now we have Dessa. Tell us more, Rick.
And there is a theme here. This is still Rick here. Just getting the microphone on here. There's a theme here. Is what goes into behind the music, scenes and skills behind the music that moves us. Now, Dessa, kind of like Nathaniel, I met just like around town. She wasn't in the Kowalski's parking lot at the time. She was at the gym. So, good morning, Dessa.
Good morning, Dessa.
Good morning.
Dessa, I understand you're a singer, a rapper, a writer, and you've made a career of bucking genres and defying expectations. I love it. You're defined as your music is, and you are defined with ferocity, wit, tenderness, and candor.
That's it.
I left you speechless.
Well, I wrote the bio, so.
Oh, you knew that. Okay.
Also, I just want to give a shout out to Nathaniel Harris. It's so nice to hear you, man. I've seen you a bunch of Kowalski's and I always stop. And I just think you're a lot of fun to listen to. And I'm so glad that you're playing there every Friday. Tell me again, what time of night on Friday?
4 to 7. 4 to 7. And in fact, we do have Nathaniel still here in the studio, and he's smiling and nodding and going, well, that's great.
I'm looking at him on the camera feed.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh,
good,
yeah.
good.
I've been singing harmonies in my apartment.
So awesome. So anyway, I know, I don't know if you remember, Dessa. I approached you at the gym very gently because I didn't know if that was you. I had just seen you 2 nights before at somewhere at the University of Minnesota. It was like a basement performance space. It was a great one. And you were performing with Doomtree. And at the time, I remember you said something, I can't remember, I didn't memorize it. You said something like, welcome to a Doomtree experience where we were kept together, something like a baling wire and duct tape or something like that, chewing gum. But I got the impression you were working your butts off.
Yeah, so I think Minneapolis, in a lot of ways, excels in a DIY musical ethic, and that goes from everything from Nathaniel and company hustling for what the gig looks like. That's no news there, I'm sure. And certainly in my musical history, that means not only trying to figure out how to get people at your shows, which means spending a time at Kinko's then, FedEx now, making flyers, handing them out, trying to find a way to get your own shirts screen printed. You know, I remember spray painting the art for a lot of my first spoken word CDs in the backyard from a hand cut stencil. And there are downsides to that. Growth is slow. You got to work another gig. That can suck. But you also get some really amazing work because you don't have the forces of a pretty polished industry, right? Rounding off the weird corners that might emerge naturally. And also, I think in Minneapolis, we have a really big collaborative vibe between genres, which isn't true in every city. In some cities, really, folk sticks to folk, hip hop sticks to hip hop, metal sticks to metal. That's not how it is here. We have a lot of mixed bills and weird and unusual collaborations because I think talent gets excited about talent, even if it's really different.
And you also do, you're a writer and you host a podcast. You're kind of like a Renaissance woman.
I mean, I think it's funny because I feel like the kind way to put it is like, look at you doing all this stuff. What a multi-hyphenate. And the other one is like,
that person. I'm like, wow.
That's
it.
Thing. So it's a couple.
One of the themes, Dessa, that for today that I was just really struck me is all the different skills that go into just doing the music. There's the writing, there's the orchestration, there's when you do music, you have to choreograph the movements, or otherwise somebody drops a guitar. It's just like there's so much into it. The business part, but also I use the word polymath now and then. I had to look it up, but it just means you excel at a lot of things, and I think it's great to shine a light on people doing and excelling in different fields and bringing it all together or not, because I think that's what it means to be human, is to be excellent in all these things. That's just the deepest part of being human.
And she has her podcast. She's the host of Deeply Human.
Exactly.
Nice. So you are widely recognized. The LA is telling us that your sound is like no one else. I loved hearing the intro music. How have you developed your sound and what you like to do?
Yeah, I think in some ways it is very much a product of the borderlessness of the Minneapolis terrain. When I started, even before I started making music, when I was a little kid, like knee-high kid, my dad was a guitarist. He was interested in classical stuff, so he was playing names of composers that, to be honest, I'm still not super familiar with, but Paganini and Bach, that was his vibe, right? He's playing old world dead guys. And my mom was singing Whitney Houston doing dishes. And I think that my tastes kind of do live somewhere in between the two. I like big, swooping, rising, melodramatic strings, mean drums, and I love pretty voices. And I think I have a special place in my heart for harmony. And I think some of that comes from growing up and, what they sometimes call blood harmony, when people who are related sing together. For example, in our city and the Twin Cities, we are so lucky to have the Steels living in our in our community, just phenomenal musicians up and down. And so singing with my mother and hearing my mother sing with her siblings, right? Maybe there's a glass of wine going around and they would do the mamas and the papas a cappella. And, my mom's Puerto Rican, so they would, she would sing me old songs, Anino Nando, to fall asleep. And her voice was like a really big part of my world, my whole world, and trying to sing like her was part of what I imagined it might be to grow up. Yeah.
And you not only do solo, but you also do these co-compositions for 100-voice choir, and you've done that with the Minnesota Orchestra.
I have been. It sounds so trite to be like I've been lucky, but it's true. I've been really fortunate. A career is so much the product of passion, hard work, some talent, and then where were you, man? You know what I mean? Who walked by to see the gig is a big part of the job too. It's just part of it, and so you try to gig a lot and play loud enough for passerbys to hear. But I have had the opportunity to do a few shows with the Minnesota Orchestra, which for me that's just an order of magnitude explosion larger than what it feels like to be a rapper on stage, and it kind of runs on slightly different fuel. Rap shows are Rap shows don't need orchestras, and orchestras don't need rappers. You're making a third thing. Well, I say that because sometimes it's like, oh, that's elevating rap. And I think that's the wrong way to think about it. Rap doesn't need to be elevated. It lives on its own terms. But
It's good.
But yeah, like the energy that you feel in a sweaty small club, you know what I mean? Where everybody's like got that adrenaline and maybe a whiskey in them too. Like there's that particular feeling, which is almost like sport. And that has its own value. And then having your hair blown back and your heart broken by an entire orchestra is its own feeling. And both of those are part of the musical experience.
And Dessa just completed, it was August 3, 4, and 5, a series of evenings with the Minnesota Orchestra. I've got some friends that were at some of those shows, and they're still chilly in the best of ways. You know, the chills are still going up and down their spines, is what I mean. So that must be a trip for you, as you were saying. It's just got to be so inspiring to you, too. But I'm so glad. And many people are glad to see you in any different venue.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, first of all. But I think some of the most profound moments of that show, playing with the orchestra, which is conducted by Sarah Hicks.
Yeah.
And all the arrangements were written by my friend who I've worked with for a long time. His name is Andy Thompson. But it's like, that dude wrote 1,000 pages of music, of notated music.
Wow.
Just like this phenomenal amount, right? Just the scale of it is so big. But one of my favorite moments is a part where I don't have any words. I just stand still on stage. And because I don't have to do anything, I can just listen, to what's happening around me. And I remember the first night we played that song. It's like an instrumental outro in the song called Warsaw. And it was just trying to make sure that I didn't cry all my makeup off before my next line. It was really, really effective. We are lucky to have that orchestra, and the hall is so beautiful. And and I was also relieved to get like the welcome I did from them. We make different art, right? And it was so rad to have like their flautist and their pianist and their harpist be game to explain their work to me and to ask questions about mine, like when do you breathe? And I was like, why is all that like filigree etching on the mouthpiece of the harp? Of the flute, like there's flowers and stuff. And it turns out it's so that the sweat doesn't like make it slip off your lip and onto. It's like a skateboard grip tape. It's so cool.
Yeah. Polymath skills. Yeah. That series of events are going to be on demand for viewing sometime as well, and we'll keep an eye out for that. Is it going to be on? What is that? PBS or something?
Yeah, we did 3 nights, like you mentioned, and one of those nights was broadcast live by PBS.
Okay, yeah.
And by Twin Cities PBS. And now they're cleaning that, the footage up a little bit, getting their cuts nice and right, and then it'll be available to watch.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, I have enjoyed not only learning about your music, but also some of your writing. You've got a book coming out?
I
September?
recently published the book.
Book has just come. Well, there's still the hot off the presses Tits on the Moon.
That's
actually
the one. Now, say it again. It's Tits on the Moon.
Tits on the Moon. It's birds or something on the moon. And but that's a book of you could describe it, Dessa, but it's 12-stage poems. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, you got it. So I started my kind of performance career as a slam poet, so for people who aren't familiar, it's essentially memorizing a poem and performing it as an actor would. They're usually short, they're under about 3 minutes. And there's a big intersection with like the hip hop world and slam poetry. Mm-hmm. At least there was, 15 to 20 years ago, things like Def Poetry Jam. You might see like an Erykah Badu or a Saul Williams, performing their stuff. So for me, I started in that poetry lane and then joined the kind of zipper merged into the musical performance lane. And whenever there was an issue with our gear, as Nathaniel I bet could attest, you're often working with gear that is somewhat less than grade A and indestructible, as budgets permit. So when something was wrong, I would read a poem while we figured out how to get the power back or why the mixer wasn't working, or if something had fallen to the table, you got to have a shtick to keep people involved.
Makes sense.
You created your own segue.
I created my own like break glass read poem. It was an emergency poem. Yeah.
Speaking of which, we heard a little bit of Hurricane Party at the introduction to this segment, and we're going to hear a little bit of Chopper just going now into the next segment. Is that okay, Dessa? We're going to play a little more of your
and then
music.
After that, we'll come right back right after the commercial break. But we do want to listen to Chopper.
Let's roll.
When I'm good, I know it. When I'm bad, I don't know why. If you like it, you should show it. Before we run right out of night. Tired of the bar scene, the stupid parties, getting makeup off my face and glitter off the carpet. Meet me in the elevator. Let's press all the buttons. We can say our goodbyes later. Places faded, won't remember nothing. Visine, cab fare, dry shampoo. I'll take another like deja. You should let your guard down. I laid all my cards out. Bells are ringing last round, but I'm not turning back now. I know something's missing. I know something isn't right. Seems like the good ones always hidden. Somewhere just out of sight. I think I'm ready, but I can't say that I'm not afraid. I got a sense of direction that gets in my way. I know it best, it gets messy. Nobody's got an extra heart on hand to break.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we're listening to some wonderful music by Dessa. And we've been celebrating the music scene here in the Twin Cities with Dessa and with Nathaniel Harris. And co-hosting, or at my additional host today, is Rick Bernardo, who's put this, created this show for us today and invited these wonderful guests.
And that music we just heard was Chopper from the coming album by Dessa, whom we have with us this morning. Good morning, Dessa.
Good morning.
Love it. I love Chopper.
And so the album coming out September 29th is, and there's still some of these songs out there right now, is Bury the Lead, L-E-D-E, and which is a bit of poetry in itself, and that title. But also DessaWander.com, that's the website where you can go to see and hear more about everything from tour dates to the different activities of Dessa, and also the Doomtree.net website is basically a wonderful source of what Dessa keeps working with.
And Dessa, for those of you that are just joining us, she is a singer, a rapper, a writer, and she loves to buck genres and defy expectations, as we've heard in her music today, which is absolutely delightful. Thank you for joining us today, Dessa. We're glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We also talked in the last segment a little bit about your work with live with the Minnesota Orchestra. Did we want to share? You want to share a little bit about that and play some?
Yeah, what we have set up here, Dessa, is a little bit of Velodrome, which was from a live recording with you. So we've got about a minute of that we want to play. But can you say something about what that was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So this song, Velodrome, is a song about free will and the limits of it. I learned that word, to be totally honest, when I was dating a guy who'd been a bike messenger. And a velodrome is that racetrack, if you can imagine it, that has kind of pitched walls.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that they're angled, that they go round and round on. And of course, you're not making a lot of decisions about which way to turn when you're in a velodrome. So that's the connection to free will. And this was recorded live with the Grammy-winning Minnesota Orchestra on an album called Sound the Bells.
Okay, yeah, Dan, why don't we just listen to that and we'll come back and analyze and create.
I didn't think it was contagious. Eve leaping, eating in a makeshift dress with a bell to tell us when we're hungry. There's a bell that tells us when we're tired. There's a bell that tells us to rise and fight. A bell to rise and die. It's just a bell. Sometimes I'll ring myself to see if I might chime.
That's beautiful.
It is beautiful. That's the point, right? But there's different kinds of beauty. That one, a little different feel and rhythm than the other two, but that is music and that is poetry altogether. Thanks, Dessa.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for giving it a spin.
Absolutely. It almost sounded like there were some chimes in the background. Was that what was that? It has almost a Asian influence.
I think probably what you heard was a chime, yes, that was played, maybe also a vibraphone. And then you hear a lot of strings there, percussion section. And then at the very top, there was a lot of voices going, oh, oh, kind of and making themselves instruments. That was arranged by my longtime friend and also super talented front person, Abby Wolf. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just amazing.
Abby was with you the first time I saw you at that in whatever that was at the university.
Yeah.
And by the way, those orchestras have all kinds of instruments.
Yes. Yes, they
No
do.
argument here. As somebody who plays only the reed that's built into her throat, I marvel at that caliber of talent. Also, a lot of the band with which I tour. It's a guy named Joshua who's a great rapper, and he plays keys and he plays sax. And my friend Aviva J, who also plays piano and sings and is a crazy good whistler and plays a little bit of like electronic drums. I'm just blown away by multi-instrumentalists. So.
Do you have some concerts coming up that you can share with us about?
I do. Thanks for the softball pitch.
There you go.
I've got a couple of concerts in Minnesota as part of like a 20-city national tour for the next record. And the first one comes up, there's like a festival, Riverfest, happening in Grand Rapids that will be headlined by Jason Isbell, but I'll open it up. I'm really excited to see his set. I've never seen him live. And then I'm playing in Duluth in September on the 10th. And then the big hometown show for us is at First Ave on November 16th. And tickets are on sale for that one, too.
And I would go to DessaWander.com to see any of this and hear some of this, or Doomtree.net also has a lot of her colleagues and publications and recordings.
Thanks. Yeah. And also, if people want to follow along or see photos, from some of the recent performances, either in a club setting or with the orchestra, I'm Dessa. So it's Dessa on Instagram.
Good spelling.
And Dessa, I understand that not only do you do national tours, you do international tours as well.
Yeah.
It's a lovely way to see the world and lose a little money. But yes, we've been lucky enough to play.
Well, Dessa, you're
in
not
Europe and in China.
You're not only a national treasure, you are a Twin Cities treasure and an international treasure. So thank you for being with us on Connections Radio Show.
Thank you for having me today.